Is your business pootling along instead of firing on all cylinders? Are you feeling overwhelmed, stressed, and frustrated? Do your dreams of financial freedom feel a long way off? Then this is the podcast for you. Little Voice, Big Business, with your host, Nadia Finer.
Hello and welcome to Little Voice, Big Business, with me, Nadia Finer. Today's episode is all about launching.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
A subject I never thought I would be here talking to you about, partly because I was scared of launching until quite recently. I used to avoid launching because I felt like it was stressful and I wasn't sure I needed it, and I wasn't being lazy. I guess I was just afraid of messing it up. I knew the theory behind it, but I used to kind of give it a wide berth, and I think one of the reasons for that was all around me, I see people launching. There's a lot of pressure to achieve these huge numbers. There's always a right way of doing it and a formula you can follow. And that is so off-putting to me because I like to do things my way. I don't like doing things the way that someone else tells me to do. You know, it just makes me want to rebel and say, well, screw you, I'm not going to do it. I've run my business perfectly happily for a while without launching. I decided it was time to give it a go, so a few months ago I launched Project Profit.
Thunderbirds are go.
Which is my 6-week coaching program to help people go from not very much money through to somewhere closer to 5k a month. The first time I launched a few months ago, I kind of did an accidental launch where I uncovered this need. So I started with the problem. I uncovered a need. People were not earning much money in their business. And I was shocked. I was shocked by how little they were actually making. It was way less than $1,000 a month in some cases, sometimes closer to zero, maybe even just a couple of $100s a month for all that effort, all that work. And literally, you would not only be better off working in McDonald's, but you'd almost be better off not doing anything. You would kind of end up in the same net position if you spent the whole day watching TV or walking the dog. So I felt very strongly that something needed to change. There was a problem that needed solving, so I set off to solve it. And I created the bare bones of a program that would help people resolve that. So here's what I sort of accidentally did. I had found a problem. I talked to my people on my list about this problem, and I said, you know, would you be interested in something which solved this? So I gauged interest before I did anything. They clicked a link which said, yes, I would be interested, so I knew I was on the right track. Then I created the structure and said, right, here it is, and sort of sold it into them, having not actually written the program. I planned the structure, but hadn't written much of the content because, quite frankly, you know, I was only going to bother to do that if I knew that people were going to buy it, or even better, if I had people who'd already paid. I was always trained in the consultancy I used to work for that, you know, you only created ideas, content or intellectual property if you were being paid to do it. Otherwise, it was potentially a waste of time. So I kind of came at it from that point of view. And once I knew that I was onto something, once I had money in the bank and I was running the program, I went about creating it. So that's how the first launch ran. And then once the program finished and it had gone really well and it was successful, I had 22 or 23 people who did it. And the feedback was great. There was certainly pressure on me to run it again. My resistance and my demons kicked in, and I was thinking, oh my God, I'm not sure I can face running it again. I'm not sure I've got the energy.
Can't do it, it's really not my cup of tea. I'm harassed, embarrassed, wish you hadn't picked on me.
this whole launching malarkey. Now that I've created the thing, I can't very well email people with the same method again because it wouldn't be honest. I've already made this program. So how was I going to go about launching? I knew that I did not want to follow a kind of formula. And I felt this pressure for it to be huge, for it to be successful. And then I made a decision. I think this is something which you can hopefully benefit from too. I reframed my launch into a lovely launch. I decided I was going to have a lovely time launching and that it would be enjoyable, that it would be something which I was doing for my people and which would be fun. And it took the pressure off me. So everything I did, I kind of asked myself, is this fun? Is this coming from a place of feeling passionate about my subject, about wanting to help people? Or does this feel like a drag? Does it feel like I'm trying to pump people through the sausage machine? Because I definitely didn't want to do that. I didn't want people to feel manipulated into buying from me or feel like they were being churned through. That's just not my style. So I set about creating a lovely launch, something really rather lovely that would be lovely for everybody involved. And I did that by starting with a challenge, a fun little mini 5-day challenge. I called it Profit Pump, and I feel like it sort of reminds me of like a 1980s aerobics video. Profit Pump, and gave people a taster of what it would be like to work with me. And whenever I came up against resistance, like, oh, how much value should I be adding? How much time should I spend talking to people? I just asked myself, well, this is a lovely launch. What would make this even lovelier? Well, talking to people would be really rather lovely. And just chatting to people and answering their questions and being there for them and helping them, it felt good, so I did it. Then moving on to the kind of email funnel, how to get people from being on my list or from finishing the challenge through to buying from me. And I started to sink into a kind of feeling of, oh God, I've got to do this whole funnel thing, like, there's a process. I'm pushing people through this funnel and it feels a bit icky. And I wasn't really enjoying it. So I took a step back. I got some help. That was also important. I spent an hour with lovely Laura Robinson from Worditude and got a bit of a second opinion on my emails, which was a really good idea because I felt like I'd looked at them for a very long time. But what I also did was, as the launch went along, I read the situation and listened to my people. I listened to them in my Facebook group. I read the replies I was getting and I added things in. I tweaked it as I went along. It wasn't just set in stone. It wasn't a machine that I turned on, pulled the lever to go and then just left it running. That would be sort of impersonal. So what I did was I paused the emails, I added a new one, I told some stories. I really tried to feel what people needed, and that way it made it a lot more fun and a lot more kind of honest. And I think that the lovely launch, the good thing about the lovely launch is that you get this feeling that it's enjoyable and that you feel upbeat and positive. And I think if you feel like that, it's going to rub off on your people and they're going to want to be around you. So I think the two kind of key things up to this point were that previously I'd built anticipation around the launch and I was able to do that again. Even though I had already created the program and had a product to sell, this time I built anticipation through the challenge. Then at the end of the challenge, I did another live stream, a full-length kind of webinar-style live stream. Then I thought, well, what do they need? What do people need? So before the cart really kind of opened, I did another webinar and opened the cart. So I was kind of adding value, and it was coming from a point of view of generosity and wanting to help people honestly, wanting to help them solve this problem. And I think that hopefully came across, by trying to position the launch as a lovely launch. I tried to stay positive and upbeat. And I see this happening a lot where people start launching, they sell maybe 1 or 2 spots on their program, and then they get a bit disheartened because it feels really hard, and they kind of sink into a kind of low mood. And I think that's literally the worst thing you could do, because people can feel your vibe. If you're desperate or feeling a bit disheartened, I think it really comes across, and it's gonna make people want to give you a very wide berth and not work with you. So I think when you launch, one of the most important things you can possibly do is try to stay positive and upbeat. And if you can do that, I think that you'll start to attract more and more people towards you. Obviously, sales don't just happen, so I did go into full-on hustle like hell mode, which I still tried to do with a smile on my face, but essentially my coach, Carly, who's amazing, taught me that, if you want 20 people or 30 people on a program, pick a number, whatever it is you're aiming for, you won't stop until you reach that goal. So, I think we often head into things with a kind of vague notion of what we want to achieve, and we're a bit sort of wishy-washy about it. And then if it doesn't happen, we're like, oh, well, that didn't work. But I think that's a bit pathetic. Because if you want to achieve a goal, you just need to go and make it happen. And you keep working until it happens. So, okay, I was in a lovely launch. It was all rather lovely. And I was, adding value and talking to people. But it didn't just land in my lap. I sold, I would say, half the places, maybe a few more quite quickly. And then in order to get the rest, I hustled. I made it happen. So the kinds of things I did was adding in this additional webinar towards the end. That wasn't my original plan. Doing live streams, sending lots of emails, more emails than I normally would send. I networked within other groups, and I also used the power of my ambassadors. So people who'd done the program previously, I asked them to tell their friends, and, I bought them presents if one of their friends signed up. So I kind of had a really informal referral scheme going as well, and that worked really well too. I brought in the big guns, so to speak. And I also really went for it in terms of tracking my opportunities. So if people had mentioned that they were interested and then they disappeared off the radar, I didn't let them disappear. I hunted them down. In a very nice way, obviously, to see how they were doing. Were they still keen? Could I help them? I got on the phone with people as well, which, I wasn't originally planning on doing. Yes, I tracked my opportunities, and I made sure that if someone had mentioned that they were keen to come and join the program, I didn't just let them off the hook. I didn't just let them kind of vanish into thin air. I followed up and I got on the phone with them. So originally I hadn't intended on talking to so many people on the phone, but it was certainly worth it because, it's a lot of money to spend, and I think often you want to talk to the person that you're about to buy from before you part with nearly $700. So I thought it was fair enough, and I thought this is a lovely launch. I'm not going to resent it. I'm not going to think, oh God, that wasn't my plan, or, oh, they've got something, I'm not prepared to give them my time. It's too valuable. The overall result is that I filled my program, and people feel positive towards me because they know that I added lots of value and I helped them, and I was willing and keen and generous of spirit. And I think, that's a really important thing. So yes, you may have a plan, and you might have decided how you're going to do it and how you're going to these emails that you've pre-written, and you just set them to send, and you sit back, and your plan maybe is to just count your money once you've hit send or schedule. but it might not work out like that. So I think being flexible is really important, and listening to your people and understanding how you would feel if you got the opportunity to maybe chat to the person that you're about to buy from, and, really understand that people have questions before they're about to spend money, and they want to bond with the person who they're about to trust, or that they're about to entrust the future of their business with. And, I recognise the fact that my guys, there's a kind of paradox, isn't there? A profit paradox, that people are not making a lot of money in their business, and yet I'm asking them to spend money to make money. And that's a tricky thing. So it's not like, I'm asking them to spend $10. It's a lot of money. So I feel like, the more you can do to show that you're trustworthy and that you care about their business, the more you can do that, the better. When you're launching, think about the launch in different phases. So you kind of go into an opportunity spotting mode to start with. What do people need? What's the problem, and how can I help them? Then you need to ascertain their interest and find out whether they would theoretically or actually put their money down for something like this that's going to solve their problem. And if indeed they are, you need to be able to make the thing and have the systems in place that are going to deliver it once they've paid. So that's some kind of creating mode. Then you go into your full-on launch mode, where you've obviously sold a few, you think it's going to work, and then you need to go crazy selling. But I suggest in this phase it's more about adding value and showing people that you're the person to trust. And then, having built that anticipation towards the end of the trust building phase, you've whipped them up into a bit of a frenzy because you've got something cool to tell them about, something that's going to really help them. Then you open the doors in earnest, get people in, and then continue to hustle like hell to get the rest of the places or the rest of the spots filled.
Sell me that pen. Watch. Go on.
Let me show this pen.
That's my boy right there.
This pen. Why'd you do me a favor? Why'd you name down that napkin for me?
I don't have a pen.
Exactly. Supply and demand, my friend.
If you set yourself a goal, you will do what's required to achieve that goal. And I think that's so important, is to have a sense of what you need, what you'll be satisfied with, and then you go after it. Been working with a few clients lately who are launching, and that bit's so important. Like I mentioned, that after the first few, that may become quite easily the first few sales, it's going to work, but then the hard work begins. And being determined, having a method, having a plan that you're going to kind of contact certain people, you're going to arrange conversations, and really keeping on going whilst in a positive mindset. I think that's really key. So there's no set formula, there's no weird, complicated flowchart of emails. It's deeper than that. It's not just a bunch of emails. It's about listening to your people and finding out what they need, and then being on hand to provide that to them. But then also understanding that you need to work hard, showcasing your skills in order to make the sale. And I think once you can free yourself from comparing your launch to others and just knowing what you will be satisfied with, so for me that was 20 places filled on my program would be awesome, and then getting 24 felt really, really good. That's great. I'm happy with that. And actually having 100 places filled, would I be able to deliver such a great experience? It would be different, that's for sure. So that's not what I wanted to achieve. And I like the fact that everyone kind of knows me. People that I work with feel like they know me. So I'm really satisfied with that way of working. And it was an enjoyable experience. It was a lovely, lovely launch. And I shall endeavour to do it again once I've recovered from this one. So yes, my challenge to you is to go and have a lovely launch yourself. Even if you launch something really small to start with, just think about how you can make it fun and how you can kind of make it into something that comes from the heart rather than from a diagram or from a pre-scripted bunch of emails written by some old guy who's nothing like you. Okay? So I feel like I had a little bit of a business rant there mixed in with my launch methodology, and I'm by no means the world's biggest expert on launching, but I shared with you my experience. So, I'm sure there are other people who've had bigger launches, made more money, but I bet none of them had a lovely launch like I did. Yeah, if you feel inspired to launch in this way, let me know. Head over to my Facebook group, Little Voice Big Business, and let me know how you're getting on with your launches.
Come hang out with Nadia on Facebook. Join the Little Voice Big Business Facebook group and get support, inspiration and encouragement to help you make it happen. Go to nadiafiner.com/group to join in.
Okie dokie. Well, I'm off now and I will talk to you again very, very soon. Bye bye for now.
Little Voice, Big Business.